consequences of all things Confucius may or not have said. But here we are into ban pick already, and let's see if those same concepts will apply. Does the better jungler win, or is it the support that comes out hit? We would never know. But it's time for SBTC to hit the draft for Game 2 against Cerberus Esports.
Yeah, drafts raised quite a long junglers. AD carries have been picked. Artemis picking up the Zeri this time wants to be a little bit safer than on the Jinx, rely on himself a little bit more, but with Cuba picking up the Zeri alongside it, definitely playing to complete safety. As this time around, Dia's going to take the Ahri and try and play a bit more of that pick in potential, not wanting to use the Annie, well, the Annie has been banned, but still wanting to have that pick priority in the mid lane.
He does, and it's DNK for the 3 games in a row. Why pick up this time? I mean, it definitely is a pick that seems to work for him, and this time Dia won on the Ahri. I actually think Ahri is more on the losing side in recent times in VCS, so I think if Dia won, he kind of has to show Yado how Ahri is really played this game and really just win the early game and just snowball the game away, which seems to be the theme in general, right? I mean, Zaya also a pick that I would favor in the early game against something like the Zeri, and now Cerberus, yet again on Artemis' side especially, kind of just shading the pick that actually Slater is kind of renowned for in this split, so maybe the Zeri Zulu will work out for them, and Yadov needs to find another answer, because his Lissandra is surely getting taken away. As we see right now, it is already banned by the side of SBTC, so let's wait and see what he really still has up his sleeve. It will be, I expect, like Talia or Cassiopeia for him, and I think those are the picks where he can still influence the map.
Swain, I mean, it's flexible technically. You can play Swain mid lane, but yeah, I was definitely expecting more the Talia to come out here. I guess trying to block the Malphite pick, as they've shown the Swain as that counter to it before. But now, what do you end up taking into the Swain is the question. Cannon banned, so you can't take that. The Emperor wants to pull out the Camille. Yep, so that seems to be it. Definitely. So very happy to take that matchup into the top side. And now we're looking for that support coming in from Palette. You know you're into the Lulu, so that blocks a few things. Maybe you're looking to pick up. I mean, Thresh could work. You could try and pick up an Enchanter of your own. It looks like Benata will be it.
Looks to be the Renata. Could also have gotten something like Thresh or Alistar in this side, but they just want to make the Enchanter. And I really like this Fiora pickup because though the Swain is a potential flex pick, but he neither wants to play against Ahri nor Fiora really much, so it's kind of a very screwed situation for the side of Cerberus. And they actually opted the Gragas last pick, so they still not really showing which solo lane is really going where. But I think this is kind of a missed opportunity to just plug in the Malphite and at least have a good pickup for Panda, also at least in lane work well against the Fiora. But I think Emperor is very fine to play Fiora into this composition.
Yeah, I feel like you're pretty happy either way. I think you're more likely to see the Swain in the top side. I think that's a slightly better matchup than Gragas and Fiora. But this is going to be an interesting one coming out from Yado on the Gragas. I don't know. I don't think we've seen a ton of Gragas from Yado over this split. But yeah, no, just the one game, and it was not a win. So yeah, it's a bit of a strange draft from SBTC, but they're relying heavily on the bot lane once again.
Let's go into a quick summary of both team compositions. Agency in the mid lane for CS, trying with that reverse their fortunes. And Quincy, you want to break down what SBTC has to offer for themselves?
Yeah, this time a less conventional competition for them in general. It's just a very strong early game competition regarding the mid-jungle axis, and as well the bot lane with Zaya being there up against the Zeri and the Renata kind of matching these Enchanter styles as I addressed earlier. But they have it just as a bridge to the late game where I think Emperor would take over the side lane, and there's no real direct answer for Cerberus. However, I think in the mid game, in the 5v5 team fight, there might just be an edge for Cerberus as they could potentially play this out in a 5v4. But I think all in all, I think SBTC with Coach Ram kind of read Cerberus like a book today, and I would expect it to be a 3-0.
It's the Drop Kingdom coming from Coach Ren as we head over onto the riff, and let's trade over to our casters.
Welcome back, everybody, as we're stepping into game number 3 now. SBTC wanting to get back into that finals, take a rematch up against GAM to see if they can make their qualification MSI run, or if that's even possible after a wonderful 5-game series in our upper bracket finals. And Cerberus, they were stuck in a bad spot previously. They had to make a bit of a reverse sweep against Wales just last week, so maybe they've got it in them to try to make it happen here today. Is the magic there, Mobby?
I mean, it feels like Artemis on a hyper carry like this would be it, but this has statistically been one of Cerberus's and I guess Artemis's worst champions. Just, I guess, a little bit to do with timing on release, because Cerberus was having a rough split in 2022, and that's when Zeri was around. So, not a great win rate, but he's definitely shown competence on this in the past. So, have to see if they can bring it together, as we actually do see Yado taking the Swain into the mid lane. This is going to be a bit interesting. Adds that extra flex potential as an option in future series, in future games, if this turns out to be a win. But Emperor's not going to find the harassment onto Drakthar, not going to interrupt that jungle at all. But he is going to have a completely fine time into this Gragas. The barrels will be a bit of poke, but shouldn't be completely safe from anything. Artemis taking the beat.
Yeah. Artemis, effectively without an ability at level 1, makes it very, very difficult to actually kind of take trades like this. Level 2 gets a little bit easier, because then you've got the laser, you've got the slide, you can make some plays happen. Also, level 2 for the Lulu, super hard power spike. But at level 1, the fact that they're choking up here from Slater and Paulette means they understand that this is a solid spike that they can operate on, getting half the health bar of Artemis, shoving them off the wave, making sure to deny them as much as they can before this Lulu and the Zeri actually come online. Notably as well, Artemis did spot out DNK. Clearly Drakthar getting kind of poked out on the top side of the map in his red buff pit after that ward prompted DNK to come over here and start counter jungling. In fact, Drakthar is going to go after him instead of waiting and trying to farm or anything. He's going to go over the wall. Gonna try to hunt him down. There we go. Okay, not a bad idea for Wukong. W also gonna force out the flash from DNK, who's gonna have to queue over the wall. If I were Drakthar, I'd actually maybe step into the opposing jungle. I know Renata and Zaya have push, but you've got the Swain there for a bit of support. I would have liked to see a little bit more bloodthirst here from Drakthar. But obviously, you can see Renata's literally just tanking waves to make sure that the defense is there. As back on top side, Emperor and Pun going at it. Look at these health bar trades, Mommy.
Yeah, really, really, really spicy. Just whoever can get something going. Ghost flown for flash, so a bit of a small one for Emperor coming out there. As yeah, we're going to see Drakthar sort of make his way across now. He should be able to pick up that crab for free. There will be trade on the bot side as into the pockets of the Zaya, so that he's not going to be able to double. He's going to double crab in a sense of getting it out of the hands of DNK, but definitely going to. But it's not going to impact the map state overall, the team difference. And now he's going to try and find his way into getting a blue buff back of his own.
Yeah, I think this... I would have loved to see it supported by Yado. Yado TP'd back in. Hopefully he can get a reset on the blue buff. He actually didn't get a full reset on the blue buff, which means that Pun is not going to be able to come down and actually assist in any capacity. See if Drakthar can get it. No, he cannot, so he is going to get 3 buffed, unfortunately, on his first clear. Just as a result of that one ward going down for Emperor at the beginning of the game, securing that information for his jungler. Good support coming out here from the SBCT team. They've given a lot on the side of Drakthar in this series. Okay, that's a gank into the mid lane. Q, flash. Drakthar doesn't have any more damage. Last auto is going to get it. Well played. First blood over to Yado.
Yeah, that's going to be a nice bonus into the back pocket of Drakthar as well. Getting that assist goal going to help him be comfortable. Having lost a couple of camps to the side of DNK, and now he's feeling pretty. He's feeling okay. But a good push in. Find out DL1. Get some kills onto Yado. Let him roll into a pretty comfortable position. And now DK is going to keep finding the CS advantage. Keep counter jungling, knowing that Drakthar has to back off after that play mid.
Yeah, I would also love to see the bot lane get a little aggressive here, because they know that there's no back here for Renata. Renata actually stayed around quite a bit longer to make sure that the jungle was well defended before seeing Drakthar cross to the other side of the map, and so only just now is Paulette getting back into the laning phase. Which means that there was an opening. Of course, they're going to use it to push the wave. Artemis and Huber are going to go back and get another back in very, very quickly before, so they can kind of equalize where everything is at. It's going to be completed Berserker Greaves now for Artemis, who's going to be able to use that alongside the Cole. Probably be fine in the laning phase. The Lulu starts to beat out the Renata in the laning phase as well, so you're feeling comfortable. As actually, nice play, nice roam from Paulette as well. An immediate redeploy into the mid lane, as that's going to punish Yado, and DL1's going to pick up the kill. As the number of times in this series that this team has come together so effectively at the beginning is just astonishing here, Mavi. SBTC is playing so well today.
They're playing really well possessed. They even use this pressure to pick up the dragon as well. They have been on point. And Paulette, you know, the Renata doesn't win into the Luluin lane, so he just leaves the lane, goes gets a kill, donates that over to DL1. He's gonna be feeling really happy right now. And now he's just straight back at it. This pressure, this push that comes out from the Xayah is just too much for Cerberus to really clap back against. Now DK is just gonna keep running on, but they definitely know he's here.
Okay, all right, yeah. No slide actually used. Artemis hasn't burnt any cooldowns, only just now getting it because there's re-engage coming through from Drakthar as Artemis wants to play very far forward, wants to try to find something. Nice Q from the Renata means that Paulette is able to cancel out any sort of engagement that comes through. Drakthar though, he finds the damage, and Huber cleans up on the backside of that one. That was a lot of damage thrown out down. Yato actually wants to smoke into the Ahri, probably going to force out the Spears for us pretty easily. Is there a dive to be had here? Is DNK still around? Yato doesn't have the E quite yet. Not going to be able to stop up DL1. That's the E, the last chance that you would have had to try to clean that one up, as Yato is going to lose the ultimate. As a bit of response coming out here from Cerberus. Nice kill coming into the bottom lane. Going to be able to push back Slater a little bit. Probably get another back here for Artemis and for Huber.
Yeah, they caught DNK pushing up extremely aggressively through that ward in Tri-Rush, and so Drakthar could instantly respond with a counter gank. So they couldn't quite find the angle onto Slater though before he hit 6, and after that Featherstorm comes through, there was absolutely no chance of that gank. Pardon quietly winning this matchup on the top side. He's been landing a good amount of poke with these barrels, going full on aggression, going for the Everfrost rather than a Rod of Aegis, so going to look for a bit more burst, a bit more of that setup instead of playing that pseudo frontline. Which is kind of fair enough. You have Yato, who's going to be that pseudo tank. You have Drakthar, who's going to be a reasonably tanky frontline himself, regardless. So you don't necessarily need to commit that much into health. And now, once again, Paulette's going to try his best to hold the wave, but
I think it should be a plate covering down. That's Yato getting flashed on by DNK, and that's another gank onto the Swain that is successful. It's 2 now that they've been able to pour into DL1. That's just a little bit of something coming out here. I've got this issue that, like, Cerberus's team fighting has not been crisp today. It has not looked good against the side of SBTC either. They're doing a lot better when it comes to pick tools and things like that. And so if they're relying on a late game where you're playing the 5-on-5, obviously the Swain, I think, does yield much better to that. You do have pick tools like the E and things like that, the Gragas barrel. There's options for that. But if you're playing the more 5-on-5 type style, I mean, where do they need to fix their problems? Because this series has not been the greatest team fighting displays coming out from from the side of Cerberus that we've ever seen before.
Yeah, I think definitely thinking about that cooldown economy is definitely a big part of it that Jensen was talking about, because we sort of saw disconnected uses of ultimates, like in that using Malphite ult and then to set up one pick and then trying to team fight without it and committing your when you're fighting down on ults, but maybe up in members. But so I think maybe working a little bit better for that. You can honestly, with this composition, you can kind of just wait. Post 15 minutes, post 20 minutes, you can kind of just group everybody up in 5 and just walk at whatever objective you want. And there's not a lot SBTC can do about it. Maybe, I mean, Empa can be a side lane threat to some extent, but it's extremely hard to win a game through that split push. So I feel like that's the opportunity. Maybe if you set up and just force these team fights with that death ball, it's a good play onto Yato to get some low, but
Yato again is just he's not. I'm guessing that this was a swap kind of more as a result of the Fiora more than it was a planned swap coming through from Cerberus, because Yato doesn't seem particularly comfortable. Not unpracticed, more not like ready for this, right? Like they weren't planning the Swain swap. I have to imagine they probably put the Swain mid lane as a potential flex in some scrims, and then it's just like, okay, when it's time we bust it out, because they don't want to take the Swain into the Fiora, they don't want to give that lane away, and they're like, okay, well it should be fine mid lane into Ahri. And there have been 2 ganks that have gotten kills, but in a one-on-one, even that is a ton of damage that's been poured into Yato, who typically is quite a bit of a rock in the mid lane. I would have expected the Swain to be something that was very effective, but just has not quite been that level. Once team fighting starts, once the Rod of Ages starts, you start to get bulkier, you start to not worry as much. Things will likely change in terms of fate here for Yada, but the laning phase has not been the best so far.
Yeah, and I mean, we're seeing a very different type of Swain build coming on out. We're seeing the Rod of Ages instead of the tier into Rylai's Rush that we saw in the top lane. Maybe because I guess you might need that bit more of the mana sustain rather than the actual they're just building up a mana pool in the mid lane. But it has resulted in a slower build path. Going to be a lot later to having that impact. As the Rift does go down and crash, and it's some nice gold donated over to Artemis, but it's not really all that much. It's a 500 gold lead for Cerberus, offset somewhat by this dragon. It's actually dropped to about 300 gold, so it's just a very, very even early game, which in theory does benefit Cerberus as the fights go on in a pure 5v5 setting, but we have to see if they can actually get to a 5v5 setting comfortably.
Got to be a bit cautious here because, again, the redeploy right after a back means that Cerberus actually in a much stronger place. DL1 was in a spear rushed in to try to find Yado, and Yado was unceasing and unwavering in his standing. Very, very strong there. Although now Yano's in a really terrible place. Yeah, that's the Renata ultimate that's going to be able to drive away the majority of members right there. W coming out from Drakthar to make sure nothing else is going to come through. Artemis is going to continue upping auto attacks. A couple of low members, but it should be the Dragon confirmed here for the side of SBTCE. That felt like Yado got the really rough end of the deal right there. He was already low in the laning phase. They had to try to contest the Dragon. They actually had a really good timer for 3 members, but because of the 4th member coming in, because DL1 was still full health, that's where the punishment really came through, and you can see that. I mean, this is DL1 who just wants all the smoke against Yado here.
Yeah, Dia just getting Yado into half health, but then sticking around to a point where Yado has kind of ended up corralled into the enemy team, into range of Slater, who can just set up who can combine with DNK and get that easy pickup. The hostile takeover means the rest of the Cerberus has to scatter as well. They can't stick around and try and take a fight off of that. But so it's just a nice quick cleanup. On the plus side for Cerberus, I guess you have topside going extremely well. Emperor is pretty much always under tower. It's not turning out to a big CS lead or anything, but it means this Fiora is not getting off to an advantage. It's going to take a while for it to be a real menace in the side lane, and Pan is comfortably getting to a point where he can just instantly delete waves and not have to worry about Emperor at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, you say that, and Emperor continues to poke away with the Divine Sun, but it's pretty rough. It's not great. Rod of Ages is done for Yado. That's a nice little spike to come through. Biggest problem is that SBTCE once again has Dragon control, which they've had for all 3 games of this series so far, which means that Cerberus has to put their foot down and be able to kind of capture one of them to slow down this Dragon stacking. If they can do that, maybe then they have the chance. Again, I haven't been super faithful to their team fighting prowess inside of the series, but at minimum, you don't want to be forced into that team fighting situation if you don't have to be. So getting the next Dragon super imperative to make sure that that's going to be the case. Yeah, and again, as items start to come through, second item Swain a lot harder to kill, especially if you get into with the Zonias. Zonia's going to allow him to frontline a little bit more easily. When Gragas starts kind of entering fights, I mean, with all the AP that this Gragas is going to have at the beginning of the game, with the Everfrost, the lockdown is huge onto members like Slater, like Palette, if they end up getting knocked in. So not a bad option as well. So as some of this starts to come together, maybe the fighting looks okay. Maybe on the next Dragon, you can actually look for a bit of a 5-on-5.
Yado is just constantly half health. He tried to step out to essentially ward with that W into that bush that spotted out DNK, meant that no dive could come through onto Artemis, but he ends up taking his health bar for it. He has to back off, and even in this pressure, still enough to force Artemis away and get a first health for Slater. So playing it out very nicely. Couple hundred extra gold on plates as well. Now Yado might just be in trouble.
Okay, Yado's going to pop the ultimate, going to stay alive for a bit of time. There's the stopwatch coming through, which actually is quite beneficial for making sure that he's not going to die. Actually only dropped to half health as they didn't have the Ari's magic damage. Artemis, very, very... okay, all right. Well, all right. I get it now. See, here's the thing. Okay, and Palette's going to get pulled back too. That's going to be a double kill. All right, coming through here for the side of SBTCE. It is insane what I just watched, because what I thought I just watched was Artemis taking a defensive position against the Vi, only to then get punished immediately afterwards instead of just dashing into the Vi, which is what I fully expected. And honestly, I think if he had played full aggression, he might have ended up in a better spot because he could have actually put damage in and maybe traded off 1-for-1. And instead, because he was so far away, because he had to play more aggressively, that's what baited him further up and what allowed the side of SBTC to trade him off before there was even an option.
Yeah, tier 1 now and currently being harassed by this Lulu, but yeah, I thought they kind of fumbled it because we start with the dive, they walk into the stopwatch, and yeah, he goes in, tries to do something, but Tier 1 is just following behind him, so it's just a bit of a bad read, and of course the follow-up hook from Plett to secure the second kill is nice as well, but unlucky.
Artemis 100% of the time walks directly at DNK. Like, just walks at him, right? Or slides at him, just does something. In some cases, he's flashing at him right there. This is the one and only time I've ever seen Artemis, like, actually take, like, a posture that's, like, you know, it's somewhat decently defensible. And all it did was bait him into walking back into Ari Charm Breach because he had to walk closer to DNK. Like I said, just walk at DNK, and then once the charm comes in, once a Q comes in, flash it, and then auto attack, and you probably win because everybody's low right there. And instead, he gets caught up with that charm, got baited by his own positioning. Again, a very rare Artemis not playing way over aggressive actually cost him for the first time ever. As DNK is going to get auto attacked very, very heavily, is going to get brought down here. Yes, the Palette ultimate, and that's going to be a kill over to Artemis. As they're able to get something back on the map again, every once in a while, Cerberus is able to find these kind of small moments, small bright spots. As it might even be mid-tower going down. If they put enough into it, they should be able to get a decent amount of health onto this. Palette's also going to take quite a bit. Wow, that's a lot. Mid-tower's going to fall. Dragon's available, too.
Yeah, it's going to be traded out for the spot lane tower and also top lane tower, so it's just a 1-for-2 tower trade. They're going to pick up the dragon as well, most likely. Dia's going to try and camp in a bush, but he has been spotted, so should just try and exit out of there. And dragon tower for 2 towers, it's good for Cerberus. It stops the stacking, but it is more gold to the pockets of SBTC. Sorry. Yes, yep, I got that right. First time around, and now Dia is still in no man's land.
Okay, Dia is just messing around. That's an E, that's a W, that's coming through. Swain's going to slow him down, going to force out the Spears Rush as Dia is going to have to get out of dodge as fast as possible. Again, like you said, I think you put it as best as possible. Again, the gold advantage stays for SBTCE, but again, if you want any kind of counterplay, you have to sometimes take plays like this. What happened on top side? Okay, so this was Pun directly into the counter and just dies. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's logical. Okay, that was like the least mechanically intensive W I think I've ever seen in my entire life from a Fior. He literally just pressed it, and then Pun just it was like me trying to body slam into Emperor right there, unfortunately.
Yeah, so well, that kill that kind of missed. We kind of missed him in the player cam, but that means that it's an even worse play for SBTC, for Cerberus rather, because that balances out the kill onto DNK, and then the towers just sort of roll their way. So now, but it does mean 5 more minutes till the next dragon. 5 more minutes till Soul Point becomes a possibility. But Baron is up in a minute, and with this side lane control that they've managed to pick up so far, Emperor can push extremely deep, force a pretty decent response from the side of Cerberus. Otherwise, he's threatening inhibitor towers, so this gives a lot of pressure for SBTC to set up the top side, push in, get some jungle, get some wards down, take away some camps. Unfortunately, they don't have that mid lane tower, so it's still there's still a pretty easy route for Cerberus into that jungle, into that contest.
So it's actually been kind of wild. For the last 4 years, there have been 3 teams who have actually played against GAM in a finals. Those teams are Team Flash, who beat them. And that team contained Ego and a lot of other things. Yado is just going to go down once again. We don't really care. Cerberus might actually make this into a team fight, so might have to hold this bit of narrative for just another second. But D1 is able to escape with the Spirit Rush basically anytime.
It's going to go kill Yado. Huber.
It actually might kill Huber. And Emperor with another great counter means no damage gets taken. So that's going to be a big Renata ultimate. That's Artemis who's getting stuck in a really bad position. Can Artemis actually slide? Really, really great slide. Actually, again, the positioning from Artemis has been so much better on this Renata or on this Zeri over the course of the game. So maybe that's something to bank on. Can you further into more kills? Pun is back and he wants smoke. He's not going to get any, unfortunately, as it's going to be an escape coming through from SBTC. As it is 2-for-1 for Cerberus. They lose a tower, unfortunately, as Enper was, kicking Pun in the stomach most of that play. But at least they get a little bit of something back. Again, the breathing room is not gone for the side of Cerberus.
Yeah, Slayer, actually understanding there that he could have tried to flash and tried to get out of that, but he just realizes as long as nobody else dies on SBTC, that Cerberus can't commit to anything. They can't go for this Baron, so he can just sit there, wait, and come back to a fight and have his full set of summoners available for a potential Baron fight. This is just Yado getting absolutely crushed. They even messed up the CC with the Everfrost and whatnot, but it didn't actually matter. And then Dia gets greedy. We don't get to see it all, but he jumps in, tries to kill Huber, but that's a bit much, bit hard to do. And unfortunately, that Renata roll kind of doesn't do anything because Drakthar spinning, not autoing. Zeri right clicks instead of pressing Q, so it doesn't actually do all that much damage. You get maybe the one empowered right click, but. And then Lulu doesn't do any auto attack damage, so not the best. You can't find the execute there, and they just run down Slater, catch Slater out in a bad position on the corridor, and he chooses to save his summoners.
And again, I think what's astonishing is with SBTCE making it look like they are going to win this game, this series, certainly at this point. Again, it's not a done deal. 3,000 gold at 22 minutes. It's not world breaking, but it is at least a solid start here for the squad. The fact that this is now only like the fourth team that has challenged GAM in like the last 4 years, because you've had Saigon over the last couple that have been really kind of the mainstay. I'm pushing for finals. I'm pushing to try to do something. They've come the closest to actually doing anything. They beat them last year inside of a playoff series in a best of 5. So like really, really good stuff, right? Like they did some really, really amazing stuff over the last couple of years. And then there's Flash, who beat them, which had, of course, that was like the Cotty, and that was the ego combination, and that team has been broken and shattered to the wind. Slater, Palette, you have all the pieces that are making up this SBTC squad, right? And then you have, of course, the one split where Cerberus actually got something done, which was the Mickey Mouse split, of course, more than anything else. So now, is this SBTC squad that level of strength that like you believe them capable of pushing GAM? Because they went to 5 games, right? But now it's a finals, and GAM always turns on in finals, always does great things. Can they draw them to another 5-game final?
Yeah, I mean, you imagine so. Like, you look at the roster lineup, it's pretty stacked. Like, you had Slater who won both those Flash splits. You have Dia, who was on GAM both those times that Flash beat them. You have Palette, who was on GAM in the spring, on Flash in the summer of 2020. You have DNK, who, while he hasn't contested in a finals, he did go to Worlds on Low-Key Esports that became Team Secret. Has definitely been its mainstay towards the top of the VCS. And of course, Emper, who has kind of been one of the big upshine rookies coming out of nowhere looking to make his name. So it feels like this should be a roster that can absolutely take it to GAM. They just have to finish out that. They gotta show up tomorrow. They just gotta put it together for that final game, and it might be rough on their 3rd day of League of Legends in a row. It might be.
Yeah, it's been tough. It's a long weekend for this side of SBTCE. You think about they had to play the best of 5 against GAM. Now they're fighting for their lives against Cerberus to try to make it into the finals. And while this game isn't particularly stressful, the series hasn't been particularly stressful. They do have to come up with another game plan, because now GAM has game tape. They have games to review. They have a lot that they're able to work with. And there's a lot more they had to put into making sure that Cerberus was going to get brought down here by SBTC. It was kind of wild too, because walking into this one, again, SBTC I thought had a better team altogether, but I was excited about the prospect of Wales because they had players like Killer Queen and like some of these more upshot type players that are getting their first shot at titles instead of some of the players that have done it before. And it's like like Glory, like I wanted to see Glory go for a title, I want to see Killer Queen go for a title, players like that. But again, this veterancy is certainly coming online and being this massive boon for the side of SBTCE, as maybe the only time we've seen a team really be able to push them like this. Artemis made a very aggressive play, jumping over top the wall, trying to press the ultimate, trying to find something, but nothing sticks. The Renata Q denies him in place.
Ghost and ultimate blowing. This is kind of an opening for SBTC to try and use the Baron as a bait more than anything, and that's going to work. Oh,
You were
not quite.
very nearly dies. Dia can't quite find it. Spirit Rush is going to eventually get him to kill, but actually might cost Dia his life, as that's going to be a Cyclone block from Drakthar. Now they're low. The Baron's actually down there. They have to get over top the pit to contest this one. Drakthar is going to have to go in very little health. That's going to be an execution from the Feathers, as Drakthar did end up flashing over top the pit to be able to get over instead of using the Blast Cone, as they weren't expecting that level of blitz. And now Emperor also has more than enough free reign to do as they please. Artemis is going to try to chase him down. W is going to try to slow him down. Emperor's looking to get caught, but I don't think they actually want this. Emperor might be strong enough to take all three at once.
Oh, he's got Slayer in the back
what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Now he has the ultimate popped out onto Pun. W's going to come down to slow him down just a little bit. I think if that gets something, he ends up cleaning that kill. But because there was nothing, has to walk away. But the Baron buff feels so devastating, as that's going to likely be Cloud Soul coming down for the side of SBTCE. They've got a significant gold lead at this point. There's very little that Cerberus has left in the tank to be able to win this game.
Yeah, it's a small fumble on that pick, but that means Dio has to commit extremely hard. He ends up trading his life for the Baron overall, but it's working out pretty much okay, because they pick up a tower in the mid lane, they are able to redeploy on the map, and Emperor still has that split push capability with the Baron. They can set up a 1-4 extremely easily, and set up, as long as they keep the bot lane sort of AFK pushing, they were happy there as well. Pun is going to go collect that right now, but they can just park the squad in the mid lane, let Emperor do his thing topside. And what is Yada going to do? He's going to try his best, but Emperor could have mostly ignored it, but everyone's here.
He did. Yeah, this is not the Pun mega tank Swain that we saw the other day. This is just the glass cannon, apparently. Well, I would call it more like a glass vase, because it's not really doing any damage anyway. But Artemis gonna get stunned up, has to flash over top of the wall, gonna try to get away. Renata ultimate gets burned, I think, as an attempt to try to catch Artemis, but it's not gonna work out. But still, they're actually on the wrong side of their base. They're gonna have to back somehow and get back, because DNK is hunting them down, ensuring that Artemis and Hubert can actually access the base. TP in from Emperor is also going to force it. That'd be quite a bit of a forcing move. Are they gonna be able to do it? No, they cannot. DNK is just a menace. There's two people stuck outside the base, and this feels adequate, Mobby, if I'm being 100% honest. SBTCE, even into the final moments of the game, are just bullying Cerberus, ensuring that their bot lane can't get back to the defense. And
DNK.
He's
a menace.
DNK. I mean,
He's a
what
menace
he's
to
supposed
society.
to do? He is. Drakthar is going to get brought down. That's everybody brought down. There's no one here for the defense of the base. And SBTCE, after yesterday's 5-game series against GAM, looked so competitive.
DNK.
And honestly, we were a bit worried about them coming into today. They had to fight for their playoff life. But here they go. They get another chance